Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening. My name Mohd Shukri Hajinoor from the Faculty of Economics and Management, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, the National University of Malaysia. Today, we're going to learn about the factor-specific theory within the theory of international trade. Okay. Introduction. The factor endowment model of Heckscher-Ohlin and Stopper-Samuelson theorem both assume that K and L, capital and labor, are mobile, can move across from industry X to industry Y or from industry Y to industry X within the same country, but not outside of the country, as just like Smith and Ricardo did with the one factor L. However, in reality, in the short term, factors can be specific or suitable only for specific industry. That gives us the specific factor. Factors that cannot move easily from one industry to another. Workers, for example, acquire skills for specific occupations, not easily transferable from one industry to another. Capital, even more. Capital are more immobile across industries. For example, capital or machines or machinery for the production of aircraft cannot be used for the production of shirts or textile. So here we assume K is specific, while on the other hand, L, labor, is mobile across industry. KC is specific for the computer industry, whereas KS is specific for the steel industry. So the specific factor theory analyzes income distribution effects, impact on the income of factors because of trade. In the short term, because in the short term, there is going to be factors which are specific to certain industry. So the result or implication that we're going to see is that, number one, resources or factors specific to import computing industry will lose. On the other hand, resources or factors specific to the export industry will gain. So let's look at how that comes about. We assume K is specific, just like before I said that, while L is mobile. Suppose KS is capital specific to the steel industry, just like before I said, whereas KC specific to the computer industry, L is mobile, and we assume United States has comparative advantage in the production of computers. So now we trade according to specialization based on comparative advantage, based on Heckscher-Ohlin. So US exports computers and imports steel. So with the import of steel price will decline, and that leads to demand for KS. Now we're discussing about incomes for the immobile factors, which is K. So the demand for KS will decline. As a result, income of KS declines. On the other hand, computer prices increase. Computer, the one that United States exports. So as a result, demand for KC increases as well, and leads to income of KC increases. So we've seen here, as far as the impact on the specific factor K, income of factors specific to the export industry increases or gain. Income of factors specific to the import computing industry, on the other hand, decreases or will lose. So far, we've looked at the incomes of the specific factors, KS and KC. What happened? What about the incomes of the mobile factor, labor? So figure 3.2a explains what happens to the incomes of the mobile factor, L, when KS and KC are specific factors. So we've done with the capital. Now we're looking at what happened to labor, incomes of labor. So here we have a graph on the horizontal. Total number of workers in the United States we assume to be 30. On the horizontal, this is wages. Vertical. So actually, this is two graphs. One for the labor in the computer industry, another one labor in the steel industry. So we flip this one, labor in the steel industry, we flip it this way so that we can see. Now, we can put together as the total number of workers. So we begin with A, point A, equilibrium here. So 14 workers working in the computer industry in the United States. This is United States. Whereas 16 workers working in the steel industry in the United States. So now we trade according to comparative advantage derived from the factor endowment theorem by Heckscher-Ohlin. So United States specializes in computers, produce more computers, as a result, demand more labor for the production of computer. So there's a shift in the demand curve. Demand for labor in the computer industry from DL to DL prime computer industry. So accordingly, on the horizontal bar here, labor move out from steel going to the computer industry. As a result, there's going to be 18 here, whereas going to be shorter, 12. Previously 16. So it shows here that labor has moved from the steel industry to the computer industry. Now from 14, 18 workers now working in the computer industry, whereas in the steel industry now only 12 workers. So we have new equilibrium at point B. So what it shows here, as a result of the specialization based on comparative advantage, wages increase in the country. So this is according to the Heckscher-Ohlin theory already. But can we determine whether labor will gain or lose? So in this case, for the case when there is one factor that we assume specific, in this case K is specific, so the mobile factor, on the other hand, the mobile factor L, the result will be ambiguous. We have to look at how the consumption pattern, that depends on the consumption pattern of the labor. So trade effect on incomes of a mobile factor is ambiguous because it depends on the consumption pattern of that factor. So if L consumes more of steel, which United States imports, which because of the international trade, prices of steel has decreased, so labor will gain, their welfare increase because of trade. On the other hand, if labor consumes more of computers relative to steel, computers which United States exports according to comparative advantage, whose price has increased. So labor loses as a result of trade in this model. So we've done both for the capital and for the labor. Now, conclusion is that factor specific to the exporting industry, computer in this case, gains. Whereas factor specific to the import computing industry, which is steel in this case, loses. Whereas the mobile factor, L, will gain or lose depending on its consumption pattern. Gain if consume the import computing products, lose if it consumes the export products. So, however, in the long run, we assume that no specific factors. So, going back, returning to the Heckscher-Ohlin theorem and Stolper-Samuelson theorem, income of the abundant factor in the country, which is used intensively in the production of the product that the country specializes and exports through trade based on comparative advantage, which is derived from factor endowment theorem by Heckscher-Ohlin, will increase. Their income will increase, gain, and with magnification effect, which is factor prices increase more than product prices. Meaning that returning to the theory of Heckscher-Ohlin and Stolper-Samuelson. So, as a conclusion, when there is a factor specific in the short run, the factor which is specific to the product that the country export will gain, whereas factor specific to the products which the country imports will lose. Whereas for the labor, it is ambiguous, that depends on which product labor consumes more. If labor consumes more of export products, labor will lose. If labor consumes more of products which the country imports, labor will gain, because this is the beauty of international trade. When you export your product will increase in prices or value. That's what you like. You import your product through trade, that product is cheaper compared with you're not importing or attacking. Thank you very much for watching. Assalamualaikum.